Pokemon anime might have a big problem. As we all know, the main storyline of Horizons ended months ago, but then the show was forced to keep going beyond that because of Winds and Waves getting delayed to 2027, and unfortunately the impacts of that are becoming quite clear with time, because the new arc, Wonder Voyage, has had a really mixed reception so far. I've seen more and more fans calling the new episodes fillery, pointless, unimpactful. There's a lot of people I know who aren't even tuning in every week now. Not to mention, the main thing to look forward to is mobile game crossover after mobile game crossover. Pokemon Sleep, Pokemon Go, Pokemon Unite, not exactly the most riveting exciting stuff. Meanwhile, the main storyline and the main character's development have barely moved forwards at all since Laqua. Then after all of that, we suddenly get Navi joining the main cast. But even that has left people kinda scratching their heads, because it just feels random and unplanned, you know? Like it was a last minute addition just to give us something somewhat more substantial than filler. And when you combine that with Liko, Roy, Dot and Alt not getting barely any development or interest and focus, it has people worrying a lot. I've seen so many fans beginning to speculate that the writers are really struggling behind the scenes, somehow having to artificially extend a series they already ended months ago, and I honestly don't think that's an unfair concern or an unfair speculation, because if the writers had planned Laqua to be the climax of Horizons, which, let's be honest, we know they did, then suddenly being told very shortly before that, actually keep the series going until late 2027, that would massively affect the production. You'd suddenly need dozens more episodes, new storylines, new character arcs, new villains, new Pokemon to include. That's really not something you can just throw together easily. That takes years of preparation. We know the main storyline of Horizons was in development years before it began airing, and now they have to do that again in just a few months. And unfortunately, something else big has popped up too in the past few days, making those fan concerns even more extreme. The release schedule of the upcoming episodes. Because over the next few weeks, Pokemon Horizons is taking a lot of breaks, dude. There's no new episode this week, there's no new episode on July the 10th, there's no new episode on July the 24th. That's 3 break weeks in 1 month. And naturally, fans are seeing that and realising it's a clear sign of production problems behind the scenes. Wonder Voyage wasn't a part of the original plan for Pokemon Horizons, so the writers and animators and storyboarders and directors, all of them suddenly having to extend Horizons and make Wonder Voyage happen very short notice. Of course that would lead to big problems behind the scenes. It's very possible that the regular scheduling of making episodes is just behind right now, that they don't have enough episodes finished and ready to release like normal, so these week breaks could be them desperately trying to buy themselves more time to make episodes, and also more time to actually figure out where Horizons is supposed to go next. And it wouldn't surprise me whatsoever if that's true, man. It does make a lot of sense. But if I'm honest, I also don't think it's even nearly as bad as people are worrying about, because I looked through the previous years of the Pokemon anime and something really interesting stood out to me, something I've not really seen people talking about. The fact that July has always been a month where the Pokemon anime slows down. It's not a new thing whatsoever. Have a look. In 2025, there were 2 break weeks in July. In 2024, there was a break week in July. In 2023, there was a break week in July. In 2022, there were 2 break weeks in July. In 2021, there were 2 break weeks in July. Do you see the pattern? So while it is easy to look at July's schedule this year and assume something has gone terribly wrong behind the scenes, the reality is that this isn't actually unusual at all. These July breaks have been happening for years in the show. Maybe it's because of the summer scheduling in Japan. Maybe it's to help the production team get further ahead. Honestly, we don't know. But what I don't think it's evidence of is that Pokemon Horizons is completely fallen apart. I mean, do I think that extending Horizons until late 2027 after it was supposed to end has probably made production messier behind the scenes? Definitely, man. I think I'd be naive to pretend otherwise. But production being messier or slightly behind doesn't automatically mean the anime's doomed. It doesn't mean Pokemon Horizons is cooked. I think they're just at an awkward point where they're falling a little bit behind and they don't really have as many episodes finished as normal, and they're trying to figure out what the long-term plans are with Horizons because it's been extended by a year and a half. And they probably also don't know how much of Gen 10 stuff they can use yet either. So right now they're just in an awkward position where they're trying to fill the time and bridge the gap between the biggest climax of Horizons that we just saw and then whatever they're going to do with the final year and a half of Horizons. Whatever the next storyline is going to be. It absolutely doesn't mean that we're going to get nothing but filler until late 2027 or that the writers have ran out of ideas. We're just in a transition phase right now. And I think we already have proof of that, because although Wonder Voyage has felt quite unimpactful so far, there are already signs that the writers are laying the foundations and the setup for much bigger things down the line. Navi and Ditto don't feel like the kind of characters you introduce just to fill time. They're main cast members, they're not like side characters. Introducing an entirely new main cast member creates even more work for the writers. You've now got another personality to develop, bonds with other characters, another Pokemon team to build, more character arcs to tell. That's not the kind of decision you make if you're simply trying to coast through another year of filler. On top of that, we've already seen the new opening tease and things that haven't happened yet, big things. Miraidon and Koraidon get in focus, with Liko and Roy, the Treasures of Ruin and Ogerpon appearing, and other things too, like Liko appearing in what looks to be a Pokemon contest. Now don't get me wrong, nobody wants Liko to be a coordinator. Don't even think about it, writers. But at least it shows they do plan to do new interesting stuff with our heroes individually. They haven't just shoved everyone to the side while they burn through crossover episodes and filler episodes. And then we have probably the biggest example of all in my opinion, because it was just revealed that a Mega Rayquaza is appearing in Pokemon Horizons soon. Now when I first heard about that, I was pretty unsure to be honest, because we've already had so much Rayquaza throughout Horizons, the Mega Black Rayquaza, so introducing another green one randomly afterwards, it just felt a little weird and silly to me, you know? But then I started thinking about it. What if this isn't really about Rayquaza at all? What if it's about Alt? Alt's entire character has revolved around Rayquaza ever since he was introduced. Now on the surface, it's always been just because of his rivalry with Roy over the Black Rayquaza, but what if there is something deeper going on? What if this new Mega Rayquaza is the writer's way of finally exploring why Alt became obsessed with Rayquaza beyond just his rivalry with Roy? What if this is the next big step in Alt's character arc, pushing him into totally new territory? That feels way more important than just filler to me. It could be exploring Alt on a deeper level, and that implies Wonder Voyage isn't just an arc that's desperately trying to pad for time. It could instead be an arc that's slowly laying the foundations for whatever Horizons becomes over the next year and a half. There could be more focus on Liko and Roy and Dot still to come. Let's be realistic here, there's no way the writers are planning to give us just filler episodes until late 2027, it's not happening. Between Navi and Ditto and the legendary Pokemon and Mega Rayquaza, teasers of Alt and Liko character focus, and then eventually Gen 10 arriving soon too. Who knows, maybe just like in the previous Pokemon animes, Horizons could start incorporating and teasing whatever comes next in Gen 10. Maybe they'll add a Gen 10 Pokemon to the main cast. Maybe that could be what's in Navi's Dream Ball if that's not what she catches Ditto in. But yeah, between all of that, there's simply too much left for the writers to explore. So while I do understand why some fans are worried, and I do understand the criticisms so far, but despite that, I'm still willing to let the writers cook. These are the same writers who made Pokemon Horizons what we know and love. They're clearly very talented and good at what they do. So yeah, it could be a mess behind the scenes right now, but I don't think Wonder Voyage has shown us the real direction of the next year and a half of Horizons yet. We're very early into it, there's still plenty more to come in my opinion, and hopefully a few months from now we'll look back at all of these early episodes and realise they were just the beginning, just the groundwork. But let me know what you think. Do you think Horizons is genuinely struggling behind the scenes? Do you think fans are reading into it too much? Also be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed and come join our Discord server using the link in the description. And a huge thank you to all of my incredible channel members on screen right now, including Toten, Not Mini, Hope, J Jackson. So yeah, best wishes until we meet again.